everyone to this session that is organized by female founders and Antler. We're collaborating on a virtual event series that we're hosting throughout Europe. So this is part of that, and we are very thrilled to have you all join today for an honest conversation, a conversation about founders' fears. My name is Saskia. I'm a recruitment director at Antler. Have been working with Antler for the last 1.5 years, and I'm based in Amsterdam. And I will actually be starting with a very quick intro on Antler. So Antler is a company that is 4 years old, founded in 2017 with headquarters in Singapore. It was founded by Magnus Greenland, who is originally Norwegian. And the idea behind Antler, in essence, is to institutionalize the pre-seed stage. So basically, we want to democratize entrepreneurship. And why is that? Well, founders, like many of yourselves in the audience, typically when starting a company, you run into the same problems. It's hard to find a co-founder. It's hard to get access to capital. It's hard to validate an idea in a short period of time. And that's where Antler comes in, because we've designed a program in which we select very diverse sets of founders that have the ambition to build large and impactful companies. And they join us for a 10-week program to meet 2 objectives: find a team and validate an idea. And Antler provides you with training, with coaching, with support, and a network of industry experts and advisors to open the right doors. And after 10 weeks, you pitch your idea to the investment committee, and you either get pre-seed funding or not. And that's the way we've already supported founders across the world. We've already invested in more than 300 companies across all industries, but with one common denominator: technology. Antler has now offices in 17 locations globally. And besides individual founders, we also invest in existing teams and existing businesses, but still at the very early stage. So therefore, you follow a different track. We're quite proud to say that out of our portfolio, 41% of our portfolio companies have a female founder, and in 77% of that cases, that female founder is also the CEO of the company, which is above the industry norm. Actually, we're very proud to be partnering today with female founders to even increase those stats and become better across the world. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Karina.
Wonderful. Also, a very warm welcome from my side. I'm Karina. I'm with Female Founders, and Female Founders is the fastest growing community of entrepreneurial women across Europe. And our vision is really to drive more gender diversity in the whole European startup and tech ecosystem. And we have 2 main target audiences. So on the one side, we work with female talent. So it doesn't necessarily need to be founders in that regard. It can be leadership position in scale-ups, in VCs, and so on. And on the other side, as our name suggests, we also work with female founders. And that's also specifically what I'm doing. So we are running here a startup accelerator that I'm responsible for. And I have the pleasure to work with female founders on a daily basis. And I'm so excited about today's topic because I think it's so relevant. We need to talk more about the founders' fears and worries. And that's why I'm so excited to have this session with Kati and Sinem in a second. But before that, founders also really need strong partners. And we have one of them here today. So I would like to introduce you, Tim from The Nest, and handing it over to you.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Tim, and I'm the business director for the Dutch and DACH region for The Nest by Webhelp, and today's event partner. You probably don't know Webhelp, which is actually part of our business model. We are Europe's largest outsourcing company with around 100K people working globally for more than 1,000 clients. And a few years back, we established The Nest, a growth infrastructure for startups and scale-ups, helping fast-growing companies of all sectors and of all stages scaling their sales and customer service operations. Today, we are working with N26, Gorillas, Lydia, AirUp, and many more, normally starting around pre-seed or seed stage with our conversations. As a former founder myself, I'm super happy that we have the opportunity to support the Female Founders Network. And yeah, if you guys want to expand into new markets or develop your customer service or sales teams, reach out to me anytime. Happy to help. Enjoy today's event.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tim. And before we actually introducing the two founders today, I want to also really tell the audience as well that you should engage and use the chat for that. So introduce yourself, tell us who's in the room, try to make meaningful connections. This event is obviously also about us giving insights, but we also want you to basically be engaged there as well. So now to our wonderful two speakers today. On the one side, we have Kati, and she's really aiming to make business travel more sustainable. Recently had a rebranding from Pointless Travel to Ego Mio. And on the other side, we have Simon. She's a founder of Archive, and they're transforming basically the cosmetic industry also in a sustainable way. So trying to make it more circular, basically. So Kati and Cinnamon, I would love for the two of you to actually introduce yourself, starting with Kati.
Thanks, Karina, for the intro, and especially thanks to Angela and female founders for organizing the event. I think it's a super important topic. I myself actually unsubscribed from all those startup newsletters because you only see the positive news, which is not the reality. There is a lot of other news there which are not published. So thanks for organizing that. Yeah, so to myself, I'm Kati, I'm co-founder and CEO of Ecomio. With Ecomio, we're actually building a software, and through the software, we empower business travelers to take conscious decisions and therefore helping their companies to reduce their carbon footprint and their cost basis, their expenses. Maybe one or two sentences about how I got there, because that's also, I guess, explaining a bit why I am actually here in this panel. So I actually came up with this idea when I was a strategy consultant myself and was a lot on business travel, seeing like those kind of perverse behaviors that you have when you go on a business trip compared to a private trip. And I started this within a sabbatical that I took from consulting beginning of 2020. And as all of you know, that's when COVID hit. So obviously no one was on business travel again, which was a hard time. And at the same time, I had to build a team around this idea and convincing people to join me, even though the market was not really there or no one knew how the market would develop. So this was a big challenge. And for me, it was really about taking a conscious decision, taking some idle time to reflect and really saying, this is what I want and this is what I believe in. And yeah, that's I think what's really important. If you have a fear, if you have a worry, to take a step back and consider really where you're heading to and reflect regularly.
Thank you, Kati. Shall I take over? Yeah, so I am Sinem, obviously very excited to be here because we definitely always talk about the positive things and how great everything is, how beautiful it is. But obviously we have a lot of challenges along this road. So very excited to got this opportunity from my coaches and explain a little bit more about the journey, and potentially also that other female founders or other founders in general are stepping in this road, that they have a feeling, how it also is in real life. But yeah, so I'm Sinem. I am building Archive, and we're bringing circularity to the beauty industry. And for me, this all started finding out in a digital transformation project that there was a lot of product destruction in the beauty industry. I was never a really makeup girl myself, but you get passionate over the time because you get all these products and etc. But obviously the core reason that I'm doing this is I wanted to do something a little bit more meaningful after the age of 30. So I was working in tech, it was great, but you know, what are you exactly doing? And I was not really happy with that. The other topic was, at a certain moment, I got a limit in my career. So, and a limit, I don't mean like you cannot grow, but for me, it was very challenging to kind of like compete to the big boys in the industry. So, those two things kind of like made me go and finding out that kind of like challenge in the beauty industry, bringing kind of like a new model into the beauty industry. many times in this road, I thought it's super cool to be a disruptor, but never ever have I thought that it was going to come with a lot of challenges as well from all the different angles. And I think it's great that we have the opportunity to a little bit talk about it, because each business model has their different challenges and each founder has their different challenges. So yeah, that's the reason why I'm sitting here and explain a little bit more.
Wonderful. Thank you to the two of you, and already going a bit into the direction of the conversation that we want to have today. Looking back a bit at the time before you started out the company, Kat, you already addressed it a bit. What was like, how long were you thinking already about the process of starting your own company, and what was the biggest fear of doing it, and how did you actually overcome that? So maybe Sinem, we start with you first.
I think my biggest fear, obviously we don't have the same opportunities in life. So my biggest fear was money. Obviously that's a great bridge to answer as well. But also a little bit like, shall I kind of like go out of my comfort ways, like leaving my job, going into this challenge, quitting everything and living like a student again? And yes, I did it, but I think my biggest fear was money. But in October 2019, I was still working actually within a marketing analytics company. It's kind of like a few things. I got like a little bit more passionate writing my business model and thinking about it and finding out how big these challenges were. And at a certain moment, I just thought I'm just going to go for it. And I had some savings in my bank account. And I thought I will change the world with that amount of money. But when you start your journey, that was my first challenge. You know that if you want to make a big change, if you want to build a product, if you need a team, etc., it's not like the few pennies that you have in your pocket. I mean, it's great if you make 10 million out of like 20,000 euro, but not a lot of people do that. And I don't think it's always realistic. So I think that was my biggest fear, and that's what I've overcome over time. But yeah, you still need more to kind of like have global ambitions, for example.
Yeah, obviously. And I think, I mean, that is absolutely a super fair point. I mean, money is a very big concern, especially if you're starting at a later stage where you already have a career, where we already have a great salary. It's very different to be like, for instance, starting out when you are still a student. So Kati, how was your experience there?
I think the first thoughts came up when I was actually in the student consultancy at ETH Juniors, which is the one of ETH Zurich, because there were just a lot of startups coming out of there. So that was inspiring, but I never had like the perfect idea. So I never really thought about the next steps. I went to the US to do my master's, also to dive in a little bit more. In the end, went back to strategy consulting. I think always a bit procrastinating. Because I didn't have this perfect idea. And at some point, what convinced me is basically, again, this idle time. I had the unlucky luck to have an operation where I had to step out of strategy consulting and really not do anything, not move for like, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks. And at this time, I was reading some books like The 4-Hour Workweek or The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, great books to get inspired. And this convinced me to, in the end, say, okay, let's just do it. There's also no perfect timing or whatsoever. You can always go later, earlier, but just do it. And having a lot of conversations with other founders and understanding how their process was helped me a lot. And there was actually this one situation where a girl also from another female network called Femtech in Germany was asking me, so why are you not doing it? And to be honest, I didn't really have an answer. Of course, there's the money concern. I knew that there would be some backups. I already had some savings too. But yeah, I think it was rather procrastinating and thinking about it has to be perfect. And I guess that's also what I see at another for other female founders is that you in all kind of topics try to make things perfect, and at some point you just need to do it.
That's a very great one, by the way, Kati. Everything has happened yesterday, but you still try to perfectionize, and you know that things are not complete and not right, and you're struggling.
And I'm saying this, but I'm so bad at this. So
Yeah.
still trying to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. I think we are, I mean, especially in Europe, we're very bad with this. And also then females are specifically thinking that everything needs to be perfect before we launch. And so it's really great that you bring that up and say it doesn't need to be perfect. You just need to go out there, basically. So that's very, and I think there were already so many interesting thoughts. Also, like I love that conversations, networks help, reading books about it, and basically getting more hungry for the project that you want to run. So now we know you're obviously here, and you're obviously both founders. And now I want to know a bit more about the daily fears and worries that you still have, and especially how you cope with them and how you overcome them, if you have any specific strategies how to overcome them. Sinem.
I would say what my biggest fear is at the moment, I went into a huge challenge. I mean, I started this journey with actually pitching to investors because I knew that the product and the people and etc. was going to be expensive in the beginning. But then, call me naive, I mean, that's maybe not the normal route, but then these investors told me like, but are these brands willing to go from their strategy into an outlet philosophy when you bring this circularity game kind of like to them? And obviously my business model has been changed a million times along this journey. But I was like, challenge accepted. I can do this because all the external factors are forcing them to kind of like be more sustainable, etc., etc. But so going into that journey, getting almost a burnout in December, talking to all these players, getting like super desperate to bring in supply at a certain stage. It was very complicated, but it was also beautiful to see that that was changing kind of like around January, February. But still, daily, I have the fear, like, you know, you have a dream. You want that Chanel to listen to you kind of and say, great, Sinem, I need your help. Make me circular. I want your trademark. And in between, I will use your platform, reach new audiences, etc. But you know, that's still a little bit of a dream at the moment. But I got great opportunities also because of our Antler and because of the network and because of people that really believed in this journey. And I think it is scary. You are always afraid daily, especially when all the things are going wrong and people within the company are complaining and your investor is saying that it should have happened yesterday. I mean, those are the moments that you want to give up. But also when you wake up again, you're like, I can do it. Something positive happened again. A new deal just came in. And that's also what is making me excited. And just bring the right people around you that really believe in the journey and giving you the opportunities. And I would say just keep on going. But the fear of, can I really make it on a global level, this change management? And am I not this little girl sitting in my living room or office and having all these big ideas, or is it just big ideas? And you can see it's realizing, but I'm still like daily afraid. Is it, you know, is it going to happen? Kind of, I don't know. It's just scary, right? I would say that's the most thing. If I, as a woman from the Netherlands, can make that change on a global level, that's the biggest fear of mine. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being so open and so honest. This is obviously exactly what we are here for. And I'm pretty sure that so many women here in the audience have the same feeling. We have a lot of aspiring founders in here. We have some founders that are already working on the idea. So it's really, really great that you talk about this and that you say, I have this fear, but I'm still running my company and I'm still looking at all the positive things. Kati, what's your point of view on that?
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting to listen to you, Sinan, because I believe that also a lot of worries, they originate from your own expectations, right? And the own expectations come from an outside view. But it's really, for me, it's definitely fighting my own expectations and keeping them also realistic. One of my biggest worries right now is basically the long sales cycles that we're facing with our customers. Not the sales cycle themselves, but keeping the team motivated throughout them. Because obviously you're a startup, you want to move fast, but if your customers don't, what do you do about it? You probably cannot do a lot about it, but you need to develop some strategies. So I think that's currently the thing that's bothering the most, or that's most in my head. And what I tend to do once I see that there's a fear or worry developing, I mean, that's also still a process that you actually recognize this. I try to ask myself, what's basically the worst case scenario, and really think through this so that the fear goes a bit away, because you know what could happen in the worst case. And an example is when I started Ecomio, it was the fear about, okay, what if this doesn't turn out? Something happens and it just doesn't work. Actually, the worst cases were not so bad. You have a great education. You have some experiences also in the professional life. So you could get a job tomorrow anywhere that pays at least for the living. So why actually worry? And that's the other point that I really like also to tell to my team when I see that they have a worry, is this, maybe you know him, it's like this one video, I think for 3 minutes, an Indian guy basically saying, if you have a worry, think about it, can you do something about it? And if you can do something about it, why worry? And if you cannot do something about it, why worry? You cannot do anything about it. So I'm trying to tell this to myself repetitively, to reduce like this fear, because often it's blocking yourself and it just doesn't help the process of continuing and resolving the fear actually.
Agreed.
Wonderful. Love that.
Yeah.
And maybe also, this is a spontaneous question now. So I could see, I know it definitely for Kati, I could see that this has also affected CNAM. How did the situation last year with the pandemic, it has influenced your business, Kati, for sure. I could see how it has influenced also CNAM's. How did that change, or what did go on in your mind also with your worries and your fears? Do you think, like, I could imagine it was a tough period of time for you. Did that help you though at the end to overcome some of your fears and be better able to cope with the fears and worries that you have on a daily basis?
Kati, do you want to take it first?
Sure, yeah. I mean, for me, definitely, because as I said at the beginning, like I took a very conscious decision saying, this is something I want and this is something I believe in, and I would be super, super sad and just down if I would see another company doing the same in 2 years and it works out great. So knowing this and sticking to it, taking the time, and then in the end also getting the positive feedback, not only the negative, really helps also the self-confidence to see, okay, I took this bold decision, I can take it also in other topics. So of course it can go all wrong, but if you know the worst case, again, like it's not so bad what could happen in the worst case. So that having some examples where it actually turns out great, the strategy that you're coping with helps definitely. And I mean, COVID was a hard time, but it's I believe it's true what you say, Karina. It helps in the long run to be strong and take those decisions.
I think for digital spaces, obviously COVID also had opportunities. So for Archive, it was actually great. I don't know if you guys saw the rescue deal of Douglas. The pandemic impacted obviously all the retail stores. This means that they had shorter shelf life. This means that these stock became excess, kind of like for the beauty world. And so we had a lot of great opportunities, and we could see that businesses were moving to become digital, but also you got a little bit more opportunities that you become one of those sales channels type of. And people were obviously shopping much more online. So this was obviously great, but it's less great for the supply side of the business because Archive was just starting in those times. And it impacts your ability to kind of like network. So it's great, all these video calls, and Kati already mentioned it, your sales cycles are quite long in the beginning, but then the thing is as well, like, I feel like, you know, when you and I maybe see each other in real life and we have like a connection, it's much more easier to get that sales deal done. And the thing is, like, I had to convince like all these brands and etc. like a year long via the camera, kind of like triggering them via the customer service portals and trying to hope that somebody would kind of like want to have a video call with me. So I would say on the supply side, the pandemic, that was really tough. You could not go to conferences and etc. But at the same time, it was an opportunity as well. So for me, it feels a little bit double. And the other thing, obviously, is as people cannot travel and etc. and you don't have a huge budget, it's also secretly great, right, these video calls, because you don't have to spend money to go to the client or whatsoever. So yeah, I also try to see it positively, but it could have been great to see some people in real life as well, 100%.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, like, you don't have to spend a lot of money and you don't have to spend a lot of time.
Yes.
Great. And on the other hand, you need to be very difficult. That's a problem that I'm still facing, not to like have one meeting after the other and no thinking time again, which helps to reconsider if you're on the right path. So I think that's a new challenge that was arising through all this virtual meetings.
100%.
Yeah, thanks for raising that. And now that we are obviously here also at an event that is focusing on female founders, I would be very curious to also see if you think that as a female founder, you have different or more fears and worries. Do you have any point of view for that?
I can take it as first. I think 100%, right? Because we are in the middle of a movement, I would say, as female founders, but also like sustainability founders is a marketing term these days still, but it's not actually the truth still, because I still have daily that, you know, if your sales is not going well, you get like patronizing questions. It must be you, you know, like you don't understand it. But so you don't always feel heard or whatsoever in those situations. And you get compared with others. And so that's a little bit, I think, maybe a little bit annoying or challenging. But the other thing is as well, like, I would say that I'm used to it, not that it's great. But I would like to give the people that work within Archive in the future different opportunities and really treat them like actual equals, so that we at least kind of like learn from our generation and that the next generation doesn't experience that anymore. So I would say that 100% it is challenging, but you learn to live with it. It's still a marketing term, I believe. And I think we now as founders need to kind of like show that things should be different and things should be more equal, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I guess, or I really believe that also female founders is taking a very important role there, because it's important to talk about those fears, to get rid of them or to process them. And if I could name one topic that's probably most female specific, is a big taboo topic that you don't have a lot of conversations about, is basically the family planning. And for some people, it's more relevant at a certain time founding a startup, for some less. But because no one talks about it, it's difficult. So for example, Female Founders Network helped us to connect with other teams where there was a founder having their first or second child in the early stages, which is the same case for us. So we kind of get some examples of how it worked out and what we could learn from them, which reduced our fear of being an early stage startup with one founder being pregnant. And what really struck me is that even in public funding, it's not even addressed family planning. So we have a public funding, and there is nothing written anywhere what happens if one of the founders is actually pregnant. So luckily we could change that now. We were talking with some people, but before this, no one could tell us even an example of a founder who had to leave because they were pregnant for a period of time. And I believe that now, as I said, Sinem, we're in a time where things change, and we also have the responsibility to drive the change if we can and if we're in this specific situation.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a big one. It's something that we see over and over in all of the cohorts that we're working with the founders. And we just, and it's also amazing to see how there are founders out there just managing their process. So we have a new cohort, one woman, and she just got her baby 2 weeks ago, and the batch started last week, and she's still managing it. You know, like, I'm super impressed with her. And so, yeah, I think we need to put more of that out there and also talk about how you can actually manage that and how this is possible. So thank you so much for raising that. And as we are running out of time and we still have some questions also in the audience, I would like to look at the chat and combine basically 2 questions. So the first question is more about how are you talking about your fears and worries with your team? And also, are you honest about that, about the worries that you have? And the second question is, how do you deal with your fears and worries towards investors? Are you talking about this openly with investors as well?
Then you want to go ahead?
Shall I start?
Sure.
So do I talk about my fears with the team, or do I talk with the fears about to the investors? I think I talk a lot in general, so I think that's number one. But I really believe in transparency. Like, we can hide our fears, we can hide our problems, we can hide the challenges, but I don't think you can solve them if you don't talk about them. So 100%. I mean, maybe I don't have a huge team like Kati yet. But yeah, obviously, when I have a challenge or I am afraid if I'm going to make it, it's a personal challenge, it's a business challenge, not really sure about that fear. But yeah, I talk to the relevant stakeholders. Archive has an advisory board of people that know the industry or business very well. I talk with them much about it. So yeah, 100% being open, but again, I think you need to be transparent to be able to solve a problem, and a fear is also a problem. So yeah, that's I think people are a little bit maybe afraid also to talk to their investors because, hey, you're spending money, maybe you didn't make a great decision or whatsoever. That's also a fear. But I think it's also the risk of the investor to kind of like go for that business, and you are both in it together and you both have the same vision. So it should not be a challenge, and things kind of like happen and you also learn from them, you go on. So even with investors, you should just be honest, because I believe that if you're honest and if you're fair, they will help you as well with your challenges on a daily basis. And if you try to kind of like hide a wrong decision maybe, then obviously you cannot fix it as well on that side. 100%. Yeah.
I love the aspect of transparency. Yeah, I really stand behind that. For me, it's a lot about how much trust did I already establish with the person that I'm talking to. And us as a founding team, we actually talked a lot about it, and that's why we also defined trust as a value of ours. I always thought, okay, values, they're just like some words no one will stick to, but for us, this one is a very, very important one, because we really open up. For example, like recently I had a lot of changes in my private life, and I first told my sisters, and the second people that I told about it was my co-founders. Only weeks after I told friends about it. And same also goes for the other team members. So we're also sharing a lot of experiences from the private life, because it is influencing obviously what we're doing in our everyday life with the business. And so with our team, with the co-founders, but also everyone who joins us, it's really, really important to establish trust. And this can only come with some time working together and experiencing a lot of great, but also bad things together. So yeah, we're, for example, also currently hiring for a growth manager, and there we really look for examples. How did you establish trust already, and what's your experience with this? Can you open up? And when it comes to investors, obviously, especially if you have the very first meeting, you don't have any trust yet. You don't know this person, and then you're also meeting virtually. So how can you trust this person? So I believe from my side, it's very difficult to raise fears when you don't know a person and when you don't have a reference. But it is, as Sinem said, crucial to have a honest conversation, because only then you can find out, is this actually a match? Because it's not only about getting money and then goodbye, we're executing, but it's a longer relationship. It's, yeah, I mean, people say that it's not only a marriage that you take with your co-founders, but also with your investors. It's the right ones.
100% agreed.
Wonderful, perfect, awesome. So thank you so much to the two of you. I think what was really a conclusion to everything that we talked about here is that we need to talk about our fears and worries more, especially to the people that we trust. So definitely let's talk with our business partners about this. Let's talk about our fears and worries with our friends, with our family. And thank you so much for the two of you of joining us and sharing so openly and honest all your fears and worries. And to all the other ones that are in the room now, I invite you to basically go into the roundtables and talk about your fears and your worries and how you can overcome them. So if you want to join us, I believe we have now a link in the chat where we can actually go into the Zoom. Yes, wonderful. We have that now. So, Kati, Sinem, any final words that you want to share with us?
Kati?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure how the audience is composed, but I think one crucial thing, two crucial things are just do it and take some time to take this very, very conscious decision of your step, because then you're confident about it and you will not face so many fears anymore. Talk to a lot of people, build a network. Antler and Female Founders are great networks who help there. So yeah.
Yes, on my end, really have a plan and a vision, and don't get too stuck up on it as well. Like in practice, like, you know, when you're a consultant and you're making a document, it's great, but when you're in practice, things don't always work that way. So you have a vision and a dream, that's the most important, you know, your roads, but be flexible along the way. And I also made those mistakes by being too stubborn with believing what I believed, but you need to become flexible also to build your business, and it has to be realistic as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your final words. And we're closing this round now. And I hope to see many of you in the roundtables now, continuing that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Perfect. Ciao. Have a good day.
Have a good day.